kuti ndifushire ndekagomba rinorema ukazandivhenekera mudima rinorema ukazandiratidza nzira yekumba zvinorema wai takachengetwa nengoni zvimwe dai musingandioni makamirira chichoni wai takachengetwa nengoni zvimwe dai musingandioni takamirira chichoni zvimwe dai ndisingaioni. My beautiful Zimbabwe, my beautiful Zimbabwe, my beautiful Zimbabwe, my beautiful Zimbabwe.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for joining us on this special broadcast of the SADC Transfrontier Conservation Areas Summit, currently underway in the nation's capital at the Harare International Conference Center. It began on the 19th, which is on Monday. It will be extending all the way up until the 23rd of May. And of course, engagements have been there with regards to heads of states, environmental experts, traditional leaders, and of course, the general community that also are part of our conservation. We'll be giving you the live broadcast right here on ZBC TV. Also feel free to take advantage of our social media platform at ZBC News Online to send us your questions, comments and your contributions during the course of the broadcast. And today we're looking forward to the Council of Ministers also addressing some of the TFCA necessary concerns, and I'll be giving you that broadcast a bit later on as we cross over to the HISCC, where we'll be speaking to delegates who are currently at the venue. However, today in studio, we'll be touching on a key area of ensuring the sustainability and viability of the TFCAs. These are the financial instruments at play, and helping me unpack some of the modalities around that. I'm joined in the studio by Madame Kudakwashe Chigodo, who is who is the team leader rather for the SADC TFCA financing facilities in the International Union of Conservation and of nature. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here today. Looking forward to our discussions during the course of the broadcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Maybe we could start off by looking at your role and function as the team leader at the moment in ensuring that the TFCAs are adequately financed.
Yes, thank you. So I'm part of the team within IUCN that is managing the SADC TFCA financing facility, a program which is run by SADC Secretariat in partnership with the member states. The SADC TFCA financing facility is a regional fund that has been established to enhance financing mechanisms to support development and conservation in transfrontier conservation areas. Right. And the facility was established in 2020 with initial support from the German government. And since then, the investments into the facility have been growing. And the initial ambition is to raise at least up to 100 million euros in terms of funding to support conservation in TFCAs.
Right. You alluded to the enhancement of finance mechanisms. Maybe you could also just give us a brief appreciation of the different areas in which these enhancements have taken place.
Thank you. So currently, the financing facility is being supported by donors. Right. The idea is that SADC member states must also participate in capitalizing the funding. depending on the readiness of the mechanisms, whether it's direct investment into this fund or indirect co-financing mechanisms by member states through tax incentives for projects funded in TFCAs, or any incentives for investments, whether by private sector, into these TFCAs.
I'm glad that you, last but not least, put up the private sector. The private sector has an array of methods to be able to contribute towards social good, corporate social responsibility, community share ownership trusts. Surely some of the parameters there could be able to allow the private sector to also play their part, considering that a lot of the times some of the ecological damage to the environment is a result of industry.
Indeed, the current debate is also realizing the need to involve the private sector with viable financing solutions to support conservation. And there are a number of tools and experts who are exploring these areas. One of them is the traditional investment in tourism. Yeah. We still need to do more to invest in tourism and to maximize the revenue, because we have the resource base that can promote tourism. But how best can we tap on that resource to really make sure that we are deriving value and benefits for these resources? Local communities in TFCAs are having the opportunity cost of living with wildlife. But how best can we harness the potential of tourism to earn revenue, to be able to invest back into conservation and into development for the benefit of the communities?
Right. Touching on tourism, a trend that has also seemed to progress with the conscientization of people with regards to the environment is ecotourism. Just to be able to appreciate a natural ecosystem in its natural function also seems to be able to generate a revenue. Maybe you could also highlight how communities are being capacitated to sustain these ecosystems?
Indeed, capacity for the communities is key for them to be empowered to run tourism enterprises. One of the mechanisms that has been commonly used is the private sector partnerships, where we leverage on the expertise of private sector, whether it's in terms of product development and marketing of the initiatives, to make sure that we generate revenue. However, we still need to build more capacities for local communities, for them to take ownership of these initiatives and to be able to sustain these initiatives beyond whether the private sector partnerships or any donor funding that comes through. One of the critical challenges has been the gap that is left, for example, with a specific project initiated in 5 years, and after that, communities will not have the capacity to sustain those enterprises. It is a key challenge that the TFCA community, through the TFCA program, is also exploring to make sure we avail funding for building the capacities of local communities to actively engage in conservation and in running tourism enterprises.
Right. I'm also keen just to hear your insights in the checks and balances at play to ensure the protection of communities. Communities at times are leveraged by organizations to be able to allow them access into certain environments. If there's a community need that they found, they say that they're going to address that community need. That then unlocks a funding mechanism that can then benefit some of the works that are taking place there, but then the actual community themselves then taken advantage of purely because of that. Maybe you could just briefly share with us some of the checks and balances that are there to ensure the protection of communities.
Thank you. The TFCA program is also advocating for involving local communities right at the initial stages of designing projects, for example. So planning, whether it's land use planning or integrated development planning in TFCAs, it also places the communities at the center of these actions. So consultations with communities, participation and consent, free, prior, informed consent for the local communities to empower them to make decisions and to be able to say yes or no and to be able to benefit from these resources. This debate of empowerment goes beyond just the planning processes, but we also need to explore ways of creating legal enterprises for local communities to enable them to be able to engage, whether in business, be able to sign contracts and be able to open bank accounts. But it also takes a lot of investment in capacity building, in financial management, in business enterprising.
Right. You aptly brought up in your initial introduction that the challenge that does come up with with the conservation of the environment are the resources. You've also alluded to how a major component of that is donor funded, and that also with the SADC collective there is a position to be able to allow individual states to also contribute towards the conservation of the environment. At policy level, where do we see the regional body converging rather, to ensure that they meet that prerequisite?
Indeed. So SADC Secretariat is bringing together the member states to promote the need for support into the development of TFCAs. And that's why even traditionally it is known that member states are already contributing to conservation through their national budgets. But we are still advocating for more, for us to be able to improve in terms of poverty alleviation, to improve resourcing for the boots on the grounds, the rangers who are protecting the environment. We still need to employ more resources to sustain the operations in TFCs.
Right. We've also had a running debate that has kind of emanated as a result of the summit from Monday, where we're looking at the role that the private sector could play in shifting its focus from built environment to the actual environment. And the example that was used were pension funds, that because pension funds are raised as a result of the work of people. This is what they look forward to as a result of what they've contributed. What better result than a better environment can we invest in as opposed to fixed assets like houses and malls? Surely we can find a way to ensure a framework can be put in place so that we can secure our future through our environment. What modalities would be there currently that could potentially result in such an alignment?
Thank you. This is one of the funding mechanisms that TFCAs are also exploring. The space is still untapped and a bit challenging. Across the globe, there have been attempts to measure the value of the ecosystem services that we derive from nature. So this is still at the young stages, but there are experts who are exploring how best to do this. And this is the only one of the ways that we could be able to unlock the value of the resources that we are protecting.
Right. And then I also did want to slightly appreciate the role of the Global North. We do find that we mix and confuse climate and biodiversity, but they seem to be two sides of the same coin. A lot of the climate change direction that has been taken is a result of the industrial revolution that took place in the Global North. And the Global South has always raised a concern as to the capacitation from a resource and financing point of view to address that. Yet they continually are called to ensure that they play their part. What are the challenges when it comes to biodiversity? Are we finding a similar situation taking place, considering that most of the natural resources are within the Global South, but the economic resources are within the Global North?
Indeed, climate and biodiversity are closely intertwined. And you may understand that some of the loss in biodiversity is actually being driven by climate change. We've, however, seen strong collaboration between the North and the South in trying to protect the environment. That's why we have seen several investments in TFCAs to also protect the environment.
That's it. And on that particular note, we will now be crossing over to the Harare International Conference Center, where we are looking forward to the plenary discussions that will be taking place today.
Thank you, Farai, and we are welcoming you. Good morning to our viewers, coming to you live from the Harare International Conference Center, where we have the SADC Transfrontier Conservation Areas International Conference and Summit of Heads of State and Government. It is, of course, day 3 of these very productive meetings and conversations around conservation and indeed sustainable development, where we are looking at the celebration of 25 years this around these transfrontier borders. Of course, these nations who are looking to the natural resources that are within the SADC region and how they are conserving these natural habitats for the benefit of the various communities in these 16 member states. We will be speaking to various environmentalists, conservationists, as well as some of those policy makers as we get to understand what is the action plan when it comes to the transfrontier conservation areas and how they intend to ensure that these are protected, but also get to benefit those communities that are surrounded by these transfrontier borders. Of course, we'll also be taking you into the main auditorium where the senior officials from the various ministries which make up environment, tourism, environment, natural resources will be speaking to these key issues and coming up with those objectives in terms of that political will, in terms of that master plan when it comes to how they are moving forward in looking to the role that these TFCs play, as well as how these TFCs are actually impacting as well as benefiting nations. We know, of course, tourism also plays a major role when it comes to these TFCAs. So how are they leveraging on these conservation areas and making sure that this also impacts on their nations? We are also going to be speaking to a guest shortly who will be taking us through what it means when we're talking these transfrontier conservation areas, and most importantly, when we're looking at tourism, how do we tie this up? How do we tie tourism and these transfrontier conservation areas amongst policy issues? It is indeed one of those very important conversations. But also taking you back, we had the opening of the SADC Transfrontier Conservation Areas International Conference and Summit, where we also had some of those panel discussions, some of those speakers who were talking to conservation financing. We also heard some of those speakers that were speaking to how they are looking to the promotion of some of those initiatives as well as some of those projects and how these have also benefited their various communities. We also heard from some of those panelists when they spoke to even these conservation areas, some of these including the Kavango Zambezi conservation areas. But at this point in time, allow me to invite our guest who will be speaking to us, and I know we do have Mr. Nyambe Nyambe, who should also be taking us through some of those critical areas, and Dr. Nyambe Nyambe, apologies for that, Dr. Nyambe Nyambe, CASA Secretariat Executive Director. Once again, we welcome you.
Thank you very much.
Well, we're talking day 3 of the SADC Transfrontier Conservation Areas International Conference and Summit. Maybe talk us through some of the highlights of the issues that were unpacked day 1 and day 2.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity. Day 1 and day 2 were dedicated to an international conference that focused on a number of topics. And the first of the topics and sessions looked at the enabling of livelihoods within the transfrontier conservation areas, as well as the the enabling of better biodiversity conservation in the transfrontier conservation areas. The other key issue that was discussed related to tourism development. The other key issue that was discussed related to tourism development, as well as how to advance a wildlife-based economy. As you know, transfrontier conservation areas are not just about wildlife, but how we can unlock the broader wildlife economic opportunities within these transfrontier conservation areas. And also realizing that SADC is not just about terrestrial transfrontier conservation areas, there's also opportunities to advance the marine transboundary conservation efforts. That was also a discussion of topic, and of course you cannot talk about these areas without paying particular attention to law enforcement and anti-poaching measures. So this also was extensively discussed, and of course this requires a lot of money. So long-term sustainable financing for protected areas and for the advancement of TFCAs was yet another discussion. And last but not the least is how you can bring in the private sector, in the tourism sector, in the wildlife economy sector, and all other sectors. And so tourism and business was also extensively discussed. And the intention is that what is coming from the 2 days international conference is going to be interrogated and packaged for purposes of advancement to the relevant TFCA structures, for also to inform the development of a communique ultimately.
Day 3 it is, and we do know that we will also be saying, as the senior officials, these are coming from the Ministries of Tourism, Ministries of Environment and Natural Resources. What are some of the outcomes that we could anticipate for Day 3?
Yes, so the senior officials will obviously be updated on the deliberations, and we anticipate calls for action, for example, around the establishment of a rhino management group. In fact, revitalization, because that was previously in place. In reaction to the challenges facing rhino populations across the region, we also anticipate calls around strengthening of governance in order to ensure active participation of local communities, the utilization of science and technology. We strongly anticipate a lot of attention being paid to law enforcement, and of course attention being paid to injection of more resources in wildlife, tourism and other sectors relevant to the transfrontier conservation areas.
Now, even when we're looking to these transfrontier conservation areas, let's speak to CASA itself. You are Secretariat, Executive Director, CASA. Understanding and unpacking CASA, what are we looking at here, especially in line with these transfrontier conservation areas?
Yes, of course, you're talking about the largest transfrontier conservation area in terrestrial terms in the world, and home to more than 50% of the African savanna elephant population. A major transfrontier conservation area from the perspective of the number of protected areas within the landscape. We're talking about 19 national parks, more than 60 forest reserves, more than 100 community wildlife management areas. So this is a globally significant resource that is home to also significant resources such as lions, African wild dog, and other endangered wildlife species. But most importantly, it's also home to people who coexist with the wildlife. It's also home to businesses and business opportunities that need to be thriving. So CASA is indeed an interesting landscape, and you may recall that last year there was, at about the same time, there was the CASA Heads of State Summit. We are in the process of implementing a lot of the decisions undertaken or made by the summit, and one of which is, of course, the rolling out of the CASA tourism destination brand.
The theme for this SADC Transfrontier Conservation Areas International Conference and Summit is speaking to 25 years of cooperation for regional integration and sustainable development. When we're talking conservation, we're talking these conservation areas. What benefits are being seen, especially when we're looking to the grassroots, looking to the communities themselves?
So you have to understand this within the context of the broader opportunities that go directly to the communities and households. Think of a household or a resident of Binga or Wange or the surrounding villages around the Wange National Park, and being able to find measures that will help mitigate vulnerability to climate change, or help come up with opportunities that will give employment and an income, or indeed address issues related to poor harvests as a result of reduced rainfall patterns. All these are some of the issues that are being addressed within the context of the Transfrontier Conservation Areas, directly looking at households that are vulnerable, but also the issue of human-wildlife conflict. This is a major one. Being able to provide support to communities, developing mitigation measures and ensuring their implementation. But again, it's very important to understand that when you're talking Transfrontier Conservation Areas, you're essentially talking about regional integration. So you don't have to forget about what happens between and amongst partner states. And that is also the reason why we are here to celebrate 25 years of existence of TFCAs, looking forward to political reaffirmation and commitment to the SADC TFCA's vision, and also that being seen within the context of the broader regional integration vision and agenda of SADC.
You spoke about the human-wildlife conflict, which obviously brings to the fore the issues of bringing a balance. How do the communities benefit from these conservation areas, but at the same time, the conservation of the wildlife itself, despite these challenges that are posed? Let's talk to the wildlife. Let's talk to the benefits that the wildlife presents to these communities when we are having these TFCAs.
Yes, so you have to understand first and foremost that TFCAs are part of a bigger landscape, and the specific land uses such as protected areas, national parks in particular, represent a very important component in the whole landscape. It's a mosaic of landscape, a mosaic of land uses. So one of the benefits is, of course, them being associated with that area as the custodians of the wildlife resources and the land. That is very important. And the partner states, if I use Kaza as an example, have undertaken to support the communities living next to the protected areas by way of employment through tourism and other associated value chains. They are also involved in processes such as park planning and management. They are part of the broader governance and institutional mechanisms. It's also very important to understand that there is a connection between the culture and identity of these people and the protected areas. That's why we have, for example, communities that have certain totems. We don't have to forget that. But lastly, but not the least, is just to say that Kaza, like other TFCAs, is a coexistence landscape where aspirations of the people cannot be ignored. They have to be taken into full consideration in the way that the protected areas are managed, that they are planned, and including also the policies that are put in place for the broader environment sector.
I want us to touch on one other critical element while we're speaking conservation, while we're speaking sustainable development, the issue around carbon credits. Now, this is something that many of us try to understand. How does this work when we are speaking to these TFCAs, the carbon credits themselves? What's the role, and how are nations in the SADC region actually leveraging on these carbon credits? What is the plan? What is being done in terms of these carbon credits?
Thank you very much. And without going into details, really, one of the key things to understand is that carbon credits are an emerging mechanism to provide additional resources in as far as utilization of forest resources is concerned. And carbon credits are one mechanism that is contributing to what we call sustainable financing. And to advance all this work, communities are benefiting by way of being able to work with particular NGOs, particular organizations involved, and they are actually getting an income. But this depends on the legal and policy framework for the particular partner state that has been put in place. This is one of the mechanisms that is, of course, in its very early stages and at different stages of development by the partner states.
And as we quickly round up, what can we anticipate with the International Conference and Summit with regards the heads of state and heads of state of government will be coming through for this conference and summit. But I do believe that we are supposed to be getting in to hear what the senior officials have to say. So we will continue to engage with Dr. Nyambe, who has been speaking to us on day 3 of this SADC Transfrontier Conservation Areas International Conference and Summit. Dr. Nyambe, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, it looks like we had to conclude there because we do understand that there are some engagements happening in the main auditorium for the senior officials as they get to engage with the various panels of environmentalists, of conservationists. We'll be looking to the action plan, what will be in place, as well as what will be the role of these transfrontier conservation areas. Let's take you into the main auditorium.
Responsible for environment, natural resources, and tourism. This senior officials meeting has been convened to deliberate on transfrontier conservation areas and to lay the foundation for the key upcoming meetings of the SADC ministers responsible for environment, natural resources, and tourism later this afternoon. The Council of Ministers meeting on the 22nd of May, and eventually the SADC Summit of Head of State and Government on Friday, this 23rd May, here in Harare. I take this opportunity to express our sincere gratitude to each of you for making time to attend this important meeting and for being part of this historic milestone, which is the commemoration of 25 years of transfrontier conservation areas, in short, TFCAs. This meeting provides us with a valuable opportunity to reflect on the importance of regional cooperation in conserving our cherished natural resources and to strategize on advancing TFCAs in our region. Over the past 25 years, TFCAs have proven to be a progressive approach in tackling conservation challenges while also enhancing the contribution of natural resources to regional socio-economic development. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this meeting follows the highly successful TFCA conference with the theme, as you know, Transfrontier Conservation Areas, 25 years of regional cooperation for regional integration and sustainable development, which brought together over 500 delegates, which included government officials, traditional leaders, conservation partners, international organizations, and experts from relevant sectors. The key outcomes of this conference will be presented to your meeting for consideration. Ladies and gentlemen, as we meet today in preparation for the upcoming SADC ministerial meeting, I would like to highlight the key areas of focus that will guide our deliberation and strategic action. First, we will prioritize improving rural livelihoods by promoting community-based conservation and the sustainable use of natural resources. This approach emphasizes inclusive governance and benefit sharing, ensuring that communities on the front lines of conservation are empowered and actively involved in decision-making and implementation. Second, we will delve into transboundary biodiversity management, with a particular emphasis on strengthening the governance of transfrontier conservation areas. Our goal is to enhance the law enforcement and anti-poaching strategy, tackling existing challenges while exploring new opportunities for effective TFCA management. Third, we will discuss the development of marine transboundary conservation areas, ensuring that our efforts align with the SADC Blue Economy Strategy and Action Plan 2023-2033. We recognize the critical role of marine ecosystem in regional economic growth, social development, and environmental sustainability. Fourth, we will review the implementation of the SADC law enforcement and anti-poaching strategy, which provides essential tools for transboundary law enforcement and anti-poaching initiatives. In this regard, this meeting will focus on strengthening these efforts to effectively manage human-wildlife conflicts. Fifth, the meeting will explore innovative funding mechanisms, including public-private partnerships, carbon markets, and other models to ensure the financial sustainability of the TFCAs. And finally, this meeting will deliberate on regional approaches to sustainable tourism development as a key driver of economic growth across our SADC region. In this regard, the focus of this meeting will be on developing tourism initiatives, enhancing tourism infrastructure, and ensuring that local communities directly benefit from conservation efforts. The meeting will also explore ways to leverage the SADC Tourism Univisa, strengthening regional cooperation and positioning SADC as a premier destination for sustainable tourism. Together, these strategic priorities form a comprehensive framework for advancing our shared commitments to conservation, regional integration, and sustainable development. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in addition to these programmatic discussions, I would like to remind us all that the work of transfrontier conservation areas is guided by the SADC TFCA program 2023-2033 and its costed action plan, which provides a strategic roadmap for the next decade of conservation efforts in our SADC region. Furthermore, we have developed a specialized monitoring tool for the TFCA program, which will be presented for approval by the minister responsible for environment, natural resources, and tourism during their meeting later today. The six thematic areas of the TFCA conference align closely with the pillars of the TFCA program, providing a strategic framework for advancing transfrontier conservation. The conference outcome have provided valuable insight that will help us evaluate successes, address challenges, and map the way forward. These inputs will systematically guide the actions required in both the short to medium term and the long term to ensure the TFCA model remains successful and sustainable. Importantly, the international conference has highlighted key issues that our head of state must address to secure the long-term sustainability of SADC TFCAs, reinforcing the critical need for collective leadership and collaboration. I really want to express my sincere appreciation for the continued support from our international cooperating partners, particularly the government of the Federal Republic of Germany and the European Union. Their unwavering commitment has really been instrumental in advancing the SADC regional agenda, supporting the implementation of frameworks and action plans that drive progress in conservation and sustainable development. However, it's essential that we explore innovative financing solutions to ensure the long-term sustainability of our conservation and development efforts. I wish all of you interactive, engaging, and productive deliberation. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Muito obrigada, asante sana. Tatenda siyabonga.
Thank you, Ms. Makombo Ntumba, for the introductory remarks. Before I invite the Chairperson, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Environment, to come and welcome us and give his remarks, I would like to, we're first going to have remarks from our partners. But before we do that, the room looks very gloomy. We are celebrating. Can we just say the theme of this TFCA, and then we applaud for ourselves and give some energies in this room? The theme is SADC TFCA, 25 years of cooperation for regional integration and sustainable development. If we could just say that and applause for ourselves, apply some energy in this room, and then I will be calling upon our ICPs to come and give us statements before we do the official opening. Let's say the theme. Let me know who knows the theme.
We go?
Yes.
Transfrontier conservation areas. Let's say it. Transfrontier conservation areas, 25 years of regional cooperation for regional integration and sustainable development.
Thank you. It's now beginning to feel like a celebration mode. At this point, I also just want to announce that we do have interpretation services for those that would like to follow us in French, Portuguese, and Kiswahili, the SADC working languages. We have English is on channel 1, French is on channel 2, Portuguese is on channel 3, and Kiswahili is on channel 4. May I now invite to the podium Mr. Frank Polt, Head of Delegation of the European Union to the Republic of Zimbabwe, to come and deliver a statement. This has been one of our key partners in the 25-year journey of SADC TFCA successes. Thank you.
Hello, you can hear me now. That I'm not the ambassador head of delegation, but I'm the head of cooperation the ambassador of the European Union to Zimbabwe will come later on, so you just have to wait for a couple of hours. Dear Ms. Makombo Ntumba, Deputy Executive Secretary, Regional Integration, SADC Secretariat, dear Ambassador Tadeusz Chifamba, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Climate and Wildlife from the Republic of Zimbabwe, dear Mrs. Simone Gotze, Head of Economic and Development Cooperation, Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany in Gaborone, dear SADC representatives, senior officials and delegates, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. It is a great honor to be with you today at this important gathering of leaders and experts from across the SADC region, and to mark the 25th anniversary of the SADC Transfrontier Conservation Areas TFCA program, a truly visionary initiative that exemplifies how regional cooperation can deliver real impact for people, nature, and economies. Biodiversity is not just a global good, it is an economic asset. In Southern Africa, your forests, rivers, savannas, and coastlines are not only home to unique species, they also provide the essential foundations for agriculture, tourism, water supply, energy, and climate stability. The global community benefits from these resources, but it is the people of the SADC region who depend on them most directly. Transfrontier conservation areas are a powerful and practical response to this reality. Nature does not recognize man-made borders. By preserving ecosystems that span national boundaries, the TFCA program is helping safeguard biodiversity in a way that reflects ecological realities, not just administrative ones. As we look at sustainable growth, it is crucial to recognize that natural capital, if well managed, can be a driver of prosperity. Conservation is not a cost, it is an investment in long-term development and resilience. We believe that equally important is the link between conservation and livelihoods. Local communities are the custodians of the lands. They are the frontline actors in the fight against poaching, deforestation, and land degradation. Without their engagements, no conservation initiative can succeed. When communities benefit directly from conservation, through tourism, sustainable agriculture, or ecosystem services, they become its strongest advocates. Through our regional and bilateral envelopes, we, the EU, support a wide range of initiatives, from climate-smart agriculture to water resource management and community-based natural resource governance. We believe that environmental sustainability and economic development must go hand in hand. A key part of this effort is Nature Africa, the EU's global gateway flagship initiative for biodiversity and green growth in Africa. Nature Africa brings together African governments, communities, and international partners to protect landscapes and improve lives. The first phase of Nature Africa, from 2021 to 2024, had a budget of 155 million euros, with 23 million allocated to Southern Africa, focusing on 6 major transfrontier conservation areas. A second phase is already in preparation, with the aim of either expanding to additional TFCAs or consolidating support where impact is being demonstrated. That was our regional continental cooperation. Our bilateral cooperation in Zimbabwe mirrors this same integrated model. For instance, we are implementing the Biodiversity Enhancement for Resilience Building Initiative with a budget of 26 million euros. This program will enhance natural resource governance, promote diversified livelihoods, and improve rural resilience through climate-smart agriculture and value chain development. We are not here for a short engagement. Our support is strategic, programmatic, and aligned with global frameworks like the Convention on Biological Diversity. We cannot do it alone. The challenges we face, climate change, biodiversity loss, alone. They require collective action. It is therefore essential that all stakeholders, governments, communities, private sector, researchers, civil society, come together in a spirit of partnership. Let us work across sectors, across borders, and across traditional divides to find sustainable, inclusive, and practical solutions. We need to learn from success stories and scale them up. And above all, let us ensure that the voices of communities, especially women and youth, are heard, respected, and empowered. As you begin your deliberations, I wish you productive, forward-looking, and solution-oriented discussions. The outcomes of this meeting can chart a course for stronger cooperation, smarter investments, and more inclusive governments across the SADC region. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Port, Head of Cooperation at the EU to the Republic of Zimbabwe. We are now going to have the next statement from one of our ICPs again. This will be Ms. Simon Gotts, Head of Economic Development and Cooperation at the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany to the Republic of Botswana. Shall we please give her a warm welcome? Thank you. And just to announce that all the remarks and statements that are being presented will also be made available on our platforms and also on the link for the documents for member states. Thank you.
Honorable Ambassador Shivamba, Honorable Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Environment, distinguished SIA of SADC, dear Angel, SADC Director Dominguez Gove, distinguished senior officials of SADC member states, fellow EU representatives, Frank Port, Head of Cooperation, ladies and gentlemen. We do not need to save this planet. At least not for this planet's sake. This planet will do fine without humans, as it has done in the past. The matter is, humans and most mammals have a very low tolerance of temperature, air and water quality, soil conditions at which they can survive. We need to save conditions on this planet that are favorable to the fragility of us, human beings. Biodiversity conservation plays a critical role in maintaining these conditions. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, the rich ecosystems of the SADC region are of global significance. At the same time, they provide critical livelihoods for local communities. Since 1992, Germany has been a committed partner to SADC and its member states. One of our priorities of SADC-German cooperation for almost 25 years has been the support to SADC TFCAs. Germany has committed more than 270 million euros to TFCAs in the SADC region since then, and we supported all currently existing TFCAs. Additionally, Germany is supporting the Secretariat and member states in the areas of tourism development, strengthening law enforcement and anti-poaching activities, combating illegal wildlife, agriculture, monitoring, climate change and disaster risk management. As a member of the EU, Germany's partners closely with the relevant EU programs, as just outlined by the head of cooperation of the EU delegation. And we welcome very much the EU for starting its support to SADC TFCAs via the NATO Africa program since last year. The progress made in the SADC region in establishing and developing TFCAs is a prime example to the rest of the world. Your progress contributes significantly to the 30 by 30 target of the Global Biodiversity Framework, and even people from other regions and continents come to learn from what you have established here. I think this is a reason for a round of applause to yourselves. With the vast experience of TFCAs gathered here, in the past 2 days, we have spoken about a lot of topics, about the need for more inclusive conservation and grassroots solution, about expanding efforts to marine landscapes, about strengthening law enforcement and anti-poaching and building trust among member states for that, about more sustainable financing solutions. We spoke about how to increase tourism and investments and about achievements and gaps in monitoring and data sharing of biodiversity. Last, we spoke about the coexistence between humans and wildlife. I am hopeful that this first ever SADC TFCA summit will further strengthen the TFCA vision and mission at the highest political level. It is your high ambition, commitment and ownership that will be the basis for achieving more for both local communities and nature. As a fellow human, I am counting on you. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Obrigado. Asante sana.
Thank you. We'll now have the welcome statement and official opening of this meeting by our chairperson, Ambassador Tedious Tufamba, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Climate and Wildlife of the Republic of Zimbabwe, and chairperson of this meeting to deliver the statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Master of Ceremony, Deputy Executive Secretary of SADC and your team, distinguished heads of delegations, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On Monday, I had the opportunity to welcome you all to Zimbabwe in 2 different fora. The first being the TFCA conference itself, and then the meeting of the senior officials responsible for environment, natural resources, and tourism. Today, I have the honor to welcome you to this very important meeting, which has been called to receive the reports, engagements at ministerial and at summit level. It's serious work. It is part of the celebration, but we are here to recommit ourselves to the future of TFCAs and to the future of our cooperation, to the future of our partnership, and the future of us collectively ensuring that whatever it is that we are doing will benefit communities, will also benefit sustainable wildlife management. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of work on our hands. We will be deliberating over the next hour or so and then graduate into the ministerial segment. So once again, welcome to this session. It's serious business. Let us get to work. I thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to watch just a short video which demonstrates what we have been doing in the past 25 years in commemoration of the SADC TFC. Shall we please have that video? Thank you.
For 25 years, Transfrontier Conservation Areas, or TFCAs, have come to represent a visionary and deeply inspiring approach to conservation and development in Southern Africa. These breathtaking cross-border protected areas were established in recognition that the vast, untamed natural resources spanning national boundaries are precious shared treasures, rich in biodiversity and teeming with life, whose survival holds profound significance for both the ecological health of our planet and the socio-economic well-being of rural communities.
There is still a need for us to make sure that we establish more TFCAs in order for our local people to benefit. With the member states committed to the regional integration on TFCAs, this will drive TFCA to grow more within the SADC region.
The robust legal and institutional framework for TFCAs is grounded in several pioneering regional agreements, including the 1999 SADC Protocol on Wildlife Conservation and Law Enforcement, which champions the promotion of conservation of shared wildlife resources through the establishment of TFCAs.
We are gathered here today to celebrate and witness a historic moment in our collaboration for the conservation of our shared natural and cultural heritage.
The 2023 to 2033 SADC program for TFCAs further reaffirms the commitment to nurture these landscapes as practical examples for regional integration, while steadfastly advancing the dignity, resilience, and prosperity of local communities.
For the groups that have come, for the children that have accompanied us, it is a beauty to see you. For what we discuss here is your heritage.
Today, 13 awe-inspiring TFCAs stretch across the SADC region, safeguarding an astonishing diversity of transboundary landscapes and seascapes. Their structures range from the elegantly simple Transfrontier parks, like the iconic Kgalagadi Transfrontier Park, to vast, intricate mosaics of protected areas, communal lands, and private concessions, exemplified by the magnificent Kavango Zambezi TFCA, a living testament to nature's grandeur and complexity.
Achieving coexistence in these complex landscapes we call TFCAs, you need coordination, collaboration, and understanding. I came to realize how intricately connected the culture of the people can be linked to a river system. People depend on the fisheries, people depend on the flooding pattern for their transportation, for their farming. It's also important for the wildlife habitats.
The management authorities had quite long protocols, and we saw quite a number of illegal activities taking place unchecked. We have structures that provide for joint sensitization of the communities living along the borderline. Now, officers can just cross the boundaries, do the work.
Malawi and Zambia, we work as one. So in one camp, there are two countries.
It's something that we're really proud of. So it's a very exciting thing to be in a landscape that can be, collaboratively managed, as it's the case of the Malawi-Zambia TFCA.
The SADC Tourism Program 2020 to 2030 offers a bold and comprehensive roadmap for the sustainable development of tourism that celebrates rather than exploits the natural world.
I have great respect for the Orange River it seems quite sometimes, but there's places where it is quite deep. It is very important for South Africa and Namibia to work together, especially with our trips, with our kayaking trips. One night we sleep on the South African side, the other night on the Namibian side, just for the clients to experience the collaboration of two countries and to be in both countries at once.
If we make it easy for people to move freely, then we are guaranteed of more business. We are guaranteed of bettering our economy. I think the people, when they see the falls for the first time, they feel like they are in some very special place. And indeed, they are at a special place.
Across Southern Africa, TFCAs are proving that borders don't have to divide nature and people. But the creation of TFCAs is not without its challenges. However, through incredible collaborative efforts, we have turned these into immense successes. The Kgalagadi Transfrontier Park, straddling Botswana and South Africa, became the world's first transfrontier park in 1999, with seamless movement of tourists within the landscape. It set the stage for others to follow, boosting wildlife movement and tourism across national boundaries. Lubombo TFCA, shared between Eswatini, Mozambique and South Africa, includes the first marine TFCA in Africa. These marine protected areas within TFCAs play a vital role in conserving ocean biodiversity and supporting the livelihoods of coastal communities. In the Great Limpopo TFCA, stretching across Mozambique, South Africa and Zimbabwe, elephant migration routes have been restored, and efforts to ease tourist border crossings are gaining traction. The Kavango Zambezi TFCA, the world's largest terrestrial TFCA with the largest contiguous population of elephants. The Univisa allows easier access for travel, and a new birding route is drawing eco-tourists from around the globe. Between Namibia and South Africa, the Richtersveld TFCA celebrates desert biodiversity and indigenous heritage with a new botanical garden that opened in 2024. The Greater Mapungubwe TFCA, shared by Botswana, Zimbabwe and South Africa, safeguards critical wildlife corridors and protects one of the richest archaeological landscapes in Africa. The Maloti Drakensberg TFCA, shared between Lesotho and South Africa, with its cross-border mountain heritage attracting adventure tourists from across the globe. Up the coast, the Iola Skeleton Coast TFCA linking Angola and Namibia is seeing signs of ecological recovery. Niassa Salu TFCA, shared between Tanzania and Mozambique, is the second largest in the SADC region, protecting the largest contiguous populations of lion and wild dog. And the momentum continues. New treaties are paving the way for future conservation linkages, like the Lower Zambezi Mana Pools and Zimoza TFCAs signed between 2023 and 2024. The SADC TFCAs, together with their long-standing partners, continue to stand as beacons of hope for international cooperation, conservation excellence, and community empowerment. Yet the survival of these wild sanctuaries is not guaranteed. They remain under constant threat from climate change, human encroachment, and short-term economic pressures. Protecting these irreplaceable landscapes, where the earth still breathes with ancient rhythms and wilderness reigns, is a race against time, a call to cherish the natural heritage that sustains all life. Together, we celebrate progress and look forward to safeguarding Southern Africa's natural heritage for future generations to come.
Thank you, and this brings us to the end of the official opening ceremony. Shall we just please have another big round of applause, a celebratory one with all those African noise. We have women here. I know how we celebrate. Can we do that? Thank you, thank you. This marks the end of the opening ceremony. We would like to thank our invited guests, our ICP partners, and the media for joining us. We will now request you to exit the meeting. You are excused, but we look forward to having you again in the next few hours during the official opening of the ministerial meeting, where we will also have remarks at the ministerial level. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the morning. Thank you. As our ICP's invited guests and the media are exiting, Chairperson, I just want to confirm that we do have a quorum for this meeting. We have 12 member states that are participating.
We just heard some of those presentations, of course, those remarks coming from the SADC Secretariat, Madam Tumba, also speaking to the strengthening of those law enforcement and anti-poaching policies with regards to the conservation of wildlife, as well as the conservation of these transfrontier conservation areas. We also got to hear those opening remarks for that opening of that senior officials meetings that will be for the senior officials of ministries of environment, natural resources, as well as tourism. We heard from Ambassador Chifamba, who was also speaking to the crucial meetings that will be in line with the review of some of those deliberations that took place day 1 and day 2 of this SADC TFC International Conference and Summit. And these will also mark for the review, as well as some of those conversations that will then had and presented to the ministers who will then deliberate on them ahead of the summit, where we will have the heads of state and government looking to what has been done over the years, of course marking 25 years of progress in terms of the conservation of these transfrontier borders, these conservation areas. It is also crucial to understand that the strengthening of these action plans is important for these member states because these biodiversities are of big benefit to the tourism activities, the agriculture activities of the member states in SADC. It is also crucial to understand that the strengthening of these policies will also trickle down and benefit the locals who are around these transfrontier borders. But after all, it is day 3 of this SADC Transfrontier Conservation Areas International Conference and Summit, and we will continue to update you on more of what is happening here at the HICC. We take you back to our Pocket Hill studio where Farai Gwaze is on standby.
Thank you so much there to Monica Chanda giving us the rundown from that International Conference Center where the Transfrontier Conservation Area Summit is currently underway. I'm also still joined in studio by Kudakwashe Chigodo, who is part of the IUN and has also been giving us brief insights on the deliberations so far. But before we come to the end of this half of our broadcast, we listened to Dr. Nyambe highlight that the maritime component of the TFCAs may result in the development of a communique. Maybe you could just give us an appreciation of what that means and the potential that it speaks to for the resource capacitation of our TFCAs.
Thank you. Indeed, there has been dialogue on the need to work more with marine TFCAs, marine protected areas, and locally managed areas by marine areas by communities. And going forward, there is also a call from our side for allocating resources towards protection of marine resources, as they also contribute to biodiversity conservation.
And then a slight concern that does come up, of course, with the resources around the maritime areas becomes the coastal countries. It seems as though that they would be the ones who would have jurisdiction of the Atlantic and Indian Oceans, and the capacitation would more or less lie with them. How would then that collective bargaining work out holistically?
Indeed, we are seeing already efforts to bring together the island states into this debate for managing seascapes and transboundary marine areas. And we see they are coming on board, and we believe that they are also keen to explore transboundary collaboration in marine resources.
That's it. Well, Madam Chigodo, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Maybe you can give us your final remarks with regards to the TFCAs.
Yes, thank you. From my side, we are excited that there is already a call to action for continuous collaboration amongst various partners to conserve TFCAs, but also to raise funding for TFCAs. TFCAs are huge landscapes, and no one can go it alone. And therefore, partnerships between governments, local communities, private sector, the international community are key going forward.
That's it, Madam Chigodo. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to speaking to you again in future.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We're joined there by Madam Kodakwache Chigodo, who is with the SADC team for finance facilitation, and also a representative with the IUN. But more importantly, we do implore you to be part of the conversation. Keep sending us your questions, comments, and your contributions on our social media platform at ZBC News Online, as we focus on the SADC Transfrontier Conservation Areas Summit 2025. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll be giving you more updates on the proceedings. Stay tuned.
Mana Pools is a hidden gem of wildlife and natural beauty.